Hello and welcome to the Molten Truth. I'm your host, Zoe Michaels, and I am here today with an author and someone who's connected with the film industry, and she's a pretty amazing person. Her name is Haley Mazanek, and I'm probably butchering it as I say that, but she has written a book called, let's see here, Three Strikes Can't Take Me Out. And it's a pretty amazing book that she's put together. It's described as a raw, soul bearing journey through love, loss, addiction, betrayal, rebirth, and the unshakable power of feminine resilience. Um, and I can relate to her in a big way as far as the surviving trauma and reclaiming your voice. That's probably what bonds us here together today, is that finding your voice, finding that power to pick yourself up, pull yourself together, figure out a way forward, sometimes in a completely different direction you ever imagined. That is the very theme of the Molten Truth. So, without any further talk with me, we're going to let Haley take the stage and tell us about her and her journey.
Thank you so much, Zoe. My story is quite crazy on its own, where throughout my 20s, I experienced so much. Everything really started with a love story of meeting someone that I believed to be the love of my life, someone that even my intuition spoke to me that this man is going to be in my life forever. And later on, even telling me that he's going to be my happily ever after and that he is my future, my happily ever after. And my intuition is a great theme that I've had throughout my story as well. But this love story essentially also included him confessing to being an addict. And I didn't know how to comprehend that, how to digest that at 22 years old. I was young and naive, somebody completely different, more wounded as far as being feminine. And ultimately, I was such a people pleaser. And the fact that I was head over heels for this man, I just wanted to please him and make him the happiest and have a magical fairy tale ending with him. And things spiraled after a couple of months, both my fault and his, but ultimately his toxic personality came out, where he was a narcissist and he manipulated me and, really emotionally and verbally abused me to the point where it just completely broke me down and shredded me of all confidence, self-esteem, just who I was, wedging me between me and family and friendships. Yeah. And then drugs came into our life after a little time apart, where he brought heroin into our relationship. And a few months later, we went down the rabbit hole of a heroin addiction for 2 years. And that addiction only made his anger and toxicity much worse. But I also started turning into someone really ugly and unrecognizable, someone that I just kind of lost who I was bit by bit. And then once you become addicted on an opioid like that, like your whole mindset really just changes, and it's not just about living life, but it's about living for that drug and being able to maintain it while you see your finances and everything around you just crumble and disintegrate. And in those 2 years of addiction to heroin, there were 2 episodes where I overdosed and died for several hours at a time. And even writing the book, I even had an epiphany when I started talking about my first strike, where my eyes rolled back into my head as I was laying in bed, and my ex noticed me and just threw me in the shower for multiple hours until I finally woke up and didn't think about taking me to the hospitals, getting the right medical care. And for me, even just writing that and reliving through that, it's like, it definitely brings on the epiphanies too of like, okay, like this man chose heroin over me, someone that he got engaged to and planned to marry. And, and it wasn't just heroin, it was fentanyl. And fentanyl gets laced in with all that. So does rat poisoning. But did it stop us? No. And, I spent a good 5 years with that man. We ended up getting married. But even when we got married, we were together in person for 2-3 months before we physically separated. And those 2-3 months were the worst months of my life, where he lost his job, and being in the Midwest back at home, how are we supposed to get money for heroin and be able to upkeep that? And it led into criminal activity that I believe that I was wrongly convicted for. And I got pulled into that. Again, also not knowing that I was even a party to a crime by just sitting in the car as they were off stealing tools, reselling them for more money, and using that money purely for heroin. And the moment I came out of that and physically separated, it had to be the moment where cops were on our tail, caught us, interviewed us, interrogated us. And getting out of that, we both withdrawed. And all of a sudden I get a call from his mom that she's going to take me away, where I was detoxing with my ex, and put me on an airplane immediately. And just coming out of that alone, it was such a huge wake-up call just for me alone, where it's like, I should have been dead. I can't believe I even went through all that. And definitely had more of a victim mindset. But at the same time too, like, my biggest saving grace and angel throughout that was honestly my dog, Mocha. I have an Australian Shepherd. We got her together after a few months of being together. And with her by our side, by my side, like, she reminded me of just pure love and joy and just the beauty in life. And she really motivated me to get back to my conscious brain and be able to want to change. And so even in those 2 years of addiction, we also went through withdrawals a good 20 times, where we detoxed a good 20 times. And that detox alone, just going through one episode of it, trying to get clean, is the most excruciating pain I've ever gone through. And I continued to play the victim mindset while my ex, gave me the statement of like, just blame it all on me. It's my fault. I did this to you. I ruined your life. Like, it's me. Like, you are innocent in the whole matter. But after a few years of being away from him and on my own, and learning how to just rediscover who I was again after coming out of a heroin withdrawals and detox, I had to just learn how to live all over again. And at one point I coped with partying and drinking with friends in San Diego. And then I finally took the initiative to move back to LA and really kind of paint a new picture of living in LA, since all my old memories have just been with my ex. Sure. And, little by little, I did a lot of Nar-Anon meetings. I did a lot of conversation with, people that understood me, and, we could help each other just release and talk and grow. And that's a big dedication to one of my greatest friends in LA or San Diego. But then I just also had to I realized naturally too that, I can't be the victim of this story, and I have to take responsibility for my own actions, because I'm the one who snorted heroin. I'm the one who almost died of an overdose. Like, yes, he influenced me, but I also had to understand, learn, and forgive myself and learn how to love myself in order for me to have better knowledge and understanding as far as why I made the decisions I did. And that's not just heroin, but also in that relationship with someone who treated me terribly as much as he did treat me amazing at the same time.
Right.
So,
Well, just keep you coming back, right? Isn't that what manipulation is? They treat you just well enough that you keep coming back for more. I do have to
yeah,
say, I really respect your mindset of I wasn't going to remain a victim. I have this thought that a victim, by definition, is someone who, when they fall down, they just stay down. They don't get back up. And so by getting back up and choosing to move forward in a positive way, that's leaving the victim behind, in my opinion.
it is definitely. And it's kind of like you need to talk to yourself and be like, is this the life I want to live? Like, how do I want my life to look like? And what am I going to do about it? Like, you can't just fall in that hole of victimization and just hope that someone's going to reach out and grab you and pull you out. Like, my dad always told me growing up, like, love yourself. You're all you have. And I never really comprehended that or even understood it for the longest time. And then I finally, through my own crazy healing, other experiences, it's like, okay, well, I realized that I never loved myself. I was wanting everyone around me and my loved ones around me to fulfill my heart. And it's like, well, that's not, like, how far can you go with that? You have to put yourself first as well. And that's something I terribly lacked in.
I understand. It's an interesting thing that really the way people treat us mirrors the way that we view and treat ourselves. If we have that
Yeah.
self-esteem, if we think enough of ourselves, then somehow it comes through maybe in our body language, or maybe just, I'm not sure. I'm not a mental health professional, but somehow it does come through. Maybe it attracts the right people. I'm not sure. But definitely, we do have to think enough of ourselves. We don't have to be prideful, but we do have to have a measure of pride.
Yes. And and even through my own healing journey and learning how to love myself, like, it sounds like a selfish thing, but it's the best selfishness you can possibly humbly do for yourself.
Yeah.
Because for me, going through that on my own, I wouldn't be the person I am today. Like, we have to love ourselves, look hard in that mirror, and everything, the ins and outs, and what do we want to change, what do we want to grow on, and just flourish in the way you want your narrative to be.
Right.
It's a powerful, long journey. It's the most beautiful one you can possibly do. And in that case, knowledge, power, even for yourself and the world. And you just look at life as learning lessons, and how can I learn and grow or adapt, be the person that you be.
Absolutely. And I'm not sure if we're having some internet interference, but hopefully with the cleanup, your screen had frozen a little bit. So I'm hoping it comes through clearly during the cleanup part of our videos. But if it doesn't, my apologies to the audience. So these were strikes 1 and 2. One last question on this specific segment of your story. Did you say that it was his mother that got you on a plane and away from him? Did I hear that right?
You did hear that right.
Yeah.
Yes. When all the criminal activity finally um, took on, it finally led up to the point where the police stepped in and took charge, and it felt like my whole world just got rocked in a crazy way. I kept my heroin addiction a secret from family, from friends. I went MIA, off social media, off the grid, because
Mhm.
I was just so thoroughly embarrassed for my own self and my own behaviors. And
Yeah.
at that point, I couldn't own up to my own accountability, which is something my ex would always call me out on. And it was very true. I mean, we both had our faults, but for me, that was one of them at that age. And so the moment the police got involved, after that, my ex's parents had to literally come pick up Mocha from the police station because she was with me as we got busted and taken in. And as they found out, she went ahead and talked with my mom, but also the detective talked to my mom. And in a way, I feel like he kind of saved me a little bit because he made a deal with my mom. You take Haley out of Wisconsin, I will drop all charges.
Wow.
And
Wow.
yeah,
That's
and
wonderful.
yeah, and he also had a daughter named Haley. So he did have a little bit of a soft spot for me. And so I could see him like in the interrogation, kind of bouncing back and forth between being a father figure, seeing my ex and how aggressive he was and just
Mhm.
toxic he was, no good for me kind of thing. But then
Yeah.
also doing his job and trying to get every piece of information he can out of me.
Right. That actually is nice to hear. Sometimes I wonder, I've really not interacted with law enforcement except maybe once or twice being pulled over for a traffic ticket, right? Somehow that's unavoidable when you're young, especially. But, it's nice to hear because I usually think of the law being very stringent, the just letter of the law, this is the process, and no room for forgiveness. It's usually my mindset when it comes to law enforcement.
Yeah.
So to hear your story and hear some compassion involved and, more of the spirit of the law versus the letter of the law, that
Yeah.
that leaves a nice taste in my mouth to hear that in your situation.
Oh, it really did for me too. I at the time I wasn't able to fully feel that gratitude and overwhelming joy that was the case for me. But at the same time, I understood at the time because I just like the floodgates for me just opened and my heart and words just kept spilling from my mouth where I was not holding back. I was just giving them everything that they wanted and asked for. But then I also just started bawling my eyes out because my intuition was just alarming me before all the criminal activity took place that something really bad is going to happen.
Yeah.
And I was the little boy who cried wolf to my mom about it without fully giving her any detail or any specifics as to why something bad is going to happen when I
Right.
already knew a little bit. I had a taste of it. And, so they thanked me for, being such a strong component and understanding the case and everything that was going on. But at the same time, it's like, I think because it was in Wisconsin, the hospitality there is great. But also, he can, even though I wasn't living to my true potential then, I still had a very strong, authentic side to me where he could see how much pain I was struggling from by being with this man and being in the environment.
Yeah.
That it's like, he saw right through the tears and the heroin and everything where, he could really like understand and try to like help me, save me. And I didn't know about the saving until afterwards. So it's kind of crazy and beautiful at the same time. But
Absolutely.
and
He
then
saw something special. He saw hope in you.
yeah, he did. And and I definitely spilled my gratitude to him once I was sober afterwards and could breathe again and was back in California. But then like a month or so later, I did get hit with a warrant out for my arrest because we got booked in 2 different counties because the tools were getting stolen in 2 different counties. So I still had to go to court, go through that whole process.
Yeah.
But it was, it's a part of the responsibility that I just have to take on. I had to take on, I should say.
Right.
Not everybody just gets off so easy. I did get off easy with him in that county, but I still got yanked into the mess, even though I wasn't there at the scene of any activity.
Sure, you were involved, and it was part of the cleanup process of previous choices, which again, I get. We make decisions in our lives, and let's face it, we're human. Sometimes we make colossally bad decisions sometimes.
Yeah.
But then what do? Do we just hide from them, or do we clean them up? And it sounds like you did what you had to do. You helped clean up the mess that was made.
Yeah. And then even just by me spilling everything, by me saying that I was just sitting in the car while they were doing their business, he had to tell me, like, you're being a party to a crime, right? And it's like, I was in shock, and I'm like, well, if I would have known better, I wouldn't have done that. But now I know that I technically was a part of the situation, even though I had no idea at the time what I was doing wrong. But it's just all part of the past now, but also learning and growing and understanding and moving forward.
Absolutely. I actually put something in my blog recently about the idea of mistakes, the past, kind of being like landmarks. It's something to navigate away from.
Yeah.
So you take note of it. You say, okay, now how do I fix this? And then how do I move away from this in a positive direction?
Yes. And I think what has worked for me is you can grow confidence of being proud of yourself too through any hardship. I know. I saw the little tail. I was like, oh,
we are real.
But little by little, once I became clean again, I started very slowly sharing my story. And by sharing my story, like, I saw myself go through different stages where it's like, at first time, like, sharing my story was more of like that victim mindset of like, I can't believe I went through this and I'm still feeling like a victim, but this is my story. And then you start gaining experience and even just being able to voice that out loud. And I started recognizing within myself that, hey, like, you know what? Like, I'm actually proud of myself beyond my own belief that I even got through that and that I'm alive. Because the statistics of heroin itself, people either wind up in jail behind bars, prison even, or they're dead, and the fact that I was able to change my life around.
I'm being circled like a shark.
Yeah, you are. It's so cute.
Yeah, he's a character. But he's also a distraction. Aren't you, Orlando?
Yeah.
Orlando, the famous cat. You might as well show your face to the audience. Hello, audience. I am Orlando. I am incorrigible. Now go play with your sister.
Scene too. Oh.
All right. So much for unscripted stuff. So, there was a couple questions in my head. So one of them is, how challenging was it for you to move forward once you landed? I think you were sent someplace before California. Were you sent back to your family first? or did you go straight to California?
So the last few months of our addiction, we did move to his home state, which is Wisconsin.
Mhm.
And so once I was shipped on a plane back home, I went back to California to my
Okay,
mom,
so it
to
was
my
California.
mom's house. Yeah, where I'm from.
Okay,
So
original California girl, love it.
yeah, Bay Area.
Nice. Now, was it more challenging back in California, especially I guess as you moved further south, more within the realm of like the film industry? Because I would imagine there's still that element there.
Yeah, I think like coming out of the addiction and getting sober again, from that point forward, it took me a good few years to really just kind of rewire myself, and even just the most like generic way. I mean, the moment I came out of that, I just kept reminding myself and feeling like so like blessed that like, oh my gosh, like I'm actually alive. And it was kind of like my key message to myself was like, this is your second chance at life. You should be dead. You know, you've been broken down tremendously and shred into pieces from heroin and the emotional damage that my ex did. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so it's like I completely lost sight of who I was. I didn't know who I was. I couldn't even pour love into my dog for a few weeks because
Mm-hmm.
I just had no capacity. I just felt completely lost and scattered, but just scatterbrained of like, what am I doing? Like I have no job. I didn't have a car even.
Yep.
And so it's like all I have is my dog and just, two luggages and some other stuff of who I was. And luckily, I took a small weekend trip to LA. I was like, I need to go spend time with some of my closest friends, rediscover my love for not only my career in film and modeling, but I just need to be with friends who know me. So that way I have that kind of sense of family on top of my family's love and care that they provided for me and Mocha when I first left.
Absolutely. A full support system.
Yeah, I was like, I got so much amazing love and care from my mom and my stepdad, Joe, and them helping out with Mocha since I had no capacity to. But then from there on out, it was like, okay, well, I also need like my LA family to get a taste of who I was, or at least try to figure it out by being with them and being in a environment where I felt safe and happiest. So I did that, and it was a great taste of medicine that I needed. And after about a month, I moved to San Diego, stayed there for a year and a half, and rode the craziest emotional roller coaster of my life, just trying to feel normal and be happy that I'm alive.
Yeah.
And then eventually made my way back to LA. And by doing that, that was a whole nother circus of its own, because everywhere I looked, it's like, well, there's memories of my ex and everything we did there and there. And it's like, well, now I got to change that narrative and retackle life with just me and Mocha.
How did you go about changing that narrative?
For me, I went to Nar-Anon meetings for almost 2 years, freshly out of the addiction. That for me was seeking validation, not to go back to my ex, and that I needed to divorce him and stay separated from him. Again, that's what, manipulators and all that do, but it was validation for that. But then it was also my safe environment where I can release and to speak, and cry as much as I need to, because that was a major problem that I learned that I had too growing up and throughout majority of my life, is that I suppressed so much feelings and emotions
Yes.
That by the time I started releasing, it's like the floodgates just wouldn't close. Like everything just needed to come out, and it was so overwhelming. But at the same time, it's like, no, this needs to happen because like look back at everything you just went through. And
Absolutely.
that holds so much pain on so many different levels. But I really started just to tap more into spirituality. I also started going to church as well, and even got baptized again. I felt called to do that, and then started really connecting with my spirituality. My intuition's always been strong, but really like diving into that more really helped me become more connected, which only just creates a lot more magical feelings and an environment for myself, and even just a powerful headspace. I filled myself up with knowledge, just learning the ins and outs of, a book that I referred to in my book is called Women Who Love Psychopaths.
Okay.
Yeah. And, I took a trip to Italy, and a divorce attorney told me about it after I gave her a little synapse of me and my ex. And she's like, you should really read this book, Women Who Love Psychopaths. It's a very underrated topic, but it's so true. And it's also something that heavily impacts a lot of relationships now, where, us women, we're so nurturing and emotional creatures. We love pleasing, nurturing, and just loving on our partner. And when that partner has toxic traits, like being a narcissist and manipulator, we get sucked in under their love spell, and it becomes this very toxic, nasty dynamic. And what ends up happening, like what happened to me, is that you just get broken down to so many tiny pieces that you just lose all of yourself, and you have to figure it all out again afterwards.
Right.
It's a lot, but by me learning the ins and outs of psychopaths and their toxic traits and behaviors, I learned, okay, I was so much of a people pleaser that this is where I went wrong. And to reverse being a people pleaser, I need to put myself first and love myself.
Right. I appreciate that you took in outside information. When I think of intuition, I think of it in terms of it not being a stagnant thing where you're only seeking within your own world, what to do, but it's really kind of a moving process. You're moving forward, you're looking, you're researching, you're reaching out, and then you're letting that intuition guide you as to what choices are going to be best to help with that healing process. So I don't know if that resonates with you, but that's what I think of when I think of intuition.
No, definitely. And, like you can call it an intuition, you can call it the higher power speaking to you. Either way, I think it is, gut feeling. Either way, I think it is your higher power speaking to you. And me personally, throughout my life and what I've mentioned in my book, when my intuition has spoken to me, it's been pretty spot on. But there was at least a good one example where it's like my intuition said no about something specific, and I went against it. And then it's like everything just blew up in my face, even worse than I imagined. And so for me, I took that as a learning lesson where, hey, your intuition said that my ex is not my happily ever after before we were getting married. And I still pursued marriage with him under the influence of heroin too, but still I went against it. And then 2 weeks later, I'm already crying to my mom in the bathroom that I made a huge mistake. And then that led into the criminal activity, and there was the bomb.
I was going to say, because I remember you talking at the beginning that your gut said, don't do this, don't be in this situation. And sure enough, so on some level, you knew he was up to no good, beyond the normal, up to no good.
Exactly. And it's like, I'm just, but I listened to my body, and, and I listen carefully and I evaluate, analyze, dissect wherever I need to.
Mhm.
But at the same time, my intuition also saved me from my third strike of cancer.
Which we haven't even touched on yet. So let's go into that, because I mean, you had these first two strikes, and oh my goodness, that of itself was like a bomb. I'm going to use your word in your life, and
Yeah.
then all is good, and then boom.
Yeah. Yeah, right before I turned 30 years old, I was planning a trip with a previous boyfriend. I had one relationship after the main character, Grey Knight, my story. And we were planning to go to Costa Rica for my big 30th birthday. I want to add in a little part of it that's pretty wild that I mentioned in my book, but it's on a spiritual level that I think is powerful and crazy at the same time. Anyways, I hit a sciatic nerve before my trip, before my birthday, and I'm trying to fix it, do everything I can to heal myself so I can be adventurous in Costa Rica. And there was a moment where I felt called to go to this psychic in Hollywood for a second time because
Mm-hmm.
the sales pitch, but also like, hey, like, if you come back, I can learn, I have a better understanding what the tarot cards say, and also my psychic reading as far as like your past, present, and future. And she would put a crystal on the most important card. The first session I had with her, with one of my good friends, she said so much things out of thin air that shocked me and my friend and almost had us in tears because we were like, wow, that was very powerful. She hit all the key points of my past and this and that.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I went to her second time seeking guidance, but this time was not positive one bit. The crystal card that was the main attraction of the session was the death card.
Mm-hmm.
She told me that, that I have a serious illness that can lead to death if I don't get a medical attention ASAP. And she just kept pressuring me like crazy to go see a doctor. You're gonna die kind of feeling. I did not come out of there too happy. But I also was like, listen, like I have a doctor's appointment next week. And that was for a follow-up on hitting a sciatic nerve.
Okay. So you had a doctor's appointment already planned. So that's good.
Yeah, I had that planned. I showed up to my doctor's appointment, but I also said, listen, doc, like I haven't been to the doctors in like a good 5 years. I was a heroin addict for 2 years. And with my family's history of cancer, like my intuition got to a point and told me at this point that something is very wrong with my body and that it really needs to be checked out. So I pressured them to demand to be thoroughly checked. And the first appointment after my 30th birthday was an ultrasound, found a tumor, cancer being my biggest fear in life. So that rocked my mentality and emotions like crazy. And then for the next 3 months straight, I was a frequent flyer flying in and out of the hospital with countless tests as they're whispering tumor, tumor, tumor. And then they finally diagnosed me with an extremely rare pancreatic cancer called neuroendocrine. And it's so rare that the cancer ribbon color is zebra print. Yeah, it's the 1% of all pancreatic cancers. And so that was a major surgery that completely reconstructed my digestive system. I like to call it my new house. And I was in the hospital for about a week. And then I was bed rested, learning how to walk and eat and nutritionalize my body for 2 months after that.
Right.
And yeah, that took a whole nother journey of its own that I've been still rehabilitating from 2 years later.
Now, pancreatic cancer, I feel like usually they don't catch it early. Like usually it's like a death sentence. Is that right?
That's very right.
Okay. So it was really quite something that you just, you were due for that appointment, that you got checked out and you paid attention to those warning signs, especially with
Yeah.
the family medical history.
Yeah, I definitely had the family history in the back of my head, and that was very prominent in my thoughts when it came to health.
Mhm.
Um, but up until that doctor appointment, the first test, I mean, I had very mild symptoms, and it was all food related, where
Mhm.
like, and it just increasingly got worse and worse over time. And then I tried doing like a colon cleanse. I tried doing an at-home food allergy test. Okay, those foods are no good. Let me stay away from that. But even staying away from those items, my my energy and my gut were just extremely unhappy with everything I ate. And it just got
So
to a
definitely
point.
some warning signs.
Yeah, so those were my only warning signs, and then my intuition really just, got to a point where it's like, okay, I'm putting my foot down, like there is something legitimately wrong inside me.
Yeah,
And that's what led into all that. So think,
absolutely.
so for me it's like, I definitely pay attention to my intuition because I feel like I saved my own life. My
Yeah.
intuition inspired me to, get myself checked, and now I'm in much better condition. So thank goodness I'm alive.
Absolutely. So how long after that last experience, because I'm sorry, I'm just now seeing something in my neighbor's roof. I'm going, what is that? Distractions. Um, how long after all these experiences did it you take to process and then start writing? Or was writing part of your process?
Yeah, so I had my surgery and cancer rehabilitation fall of 2023.
Mhm.
And literally a year later, the summer, the year after, I had a kind of, I like, it's a catastrophic type of breakup
Mhm.
with the other person that I dated. He
Mhm.
also had some toxic signs that were coming out towards halfway through, and I just got to a point where I'm like, okay, I recognize those patterns. I'm done here. I know better.
Yeah.
And but he loved bombed me and tried manipulating me so intensely when I broke up with him, June of 2023,
Mhm.
that it um, it catapulted my body into my huge healing journey, where
Mhm.
within 2 weeks I dropped 10 pounds, and that made me skin and bones, honestly. Um, but it also brought up so much PTSD and physical anxiety that I call it the Tasmanian devil effect in my book,
Yeah.
because my body just literally felt like it was possessed by a demon. I hate to say it, but like an
Mhm.
anxiety ridden demon that just I had no control over. And it was, I usually don't get embarrassed, but for those 6 months going through that healing journey and all those panic attacks and crazy anxiety, I couldn't eat. I couldn't gain weight. I had PTSD so bad. All my vivid dreams completely got vanished from my memory. And even
Mhm.
to this day, like dreams are just now starting to glimmer back into my life.
Yeah.
Um, but I isolated myself because for once in my life, I actually felt embarrassed by feeling possessed over so much toxicity, like reeking out of my pores. And it
Mhm.
was a constant thing. I even had to quit one job, um, and just isolate myself. And through that isolation, I just sat with myself. I was like, I need to just learn how to love myself. I need to forgive myself. I need to learn and gain knowledge about what everything has looked like for me in the past, dissect it, analyze it, learn what I did right and wrong and how I want to do better. I mean, I just completely went on a deep dive detective work into my complete past and who I am. So that way, by the end of the year, 6 months later, I came out of it a completely reborn person.
Mm-hmm.
And by coming out of that, that's when I finally had the capacity and mental, emotional strength to be able to write and start the book. I even avoided it like the plague for the first month because I was still recovering and trying to find the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah.
So, but also through that messy time period, I believe that because I was doing the good work on myself in a spiritual, deep-rooted way, I felt like the world was rewarding me in return. And one of those rewards was the opportunity to write the book. So I was just blessed upon belief, because for the last 5 years, once I walked out of the heroin addiction, I came out of that and said to my best friend, like, I can't believe I just went through that. Like, I should write a book about this. Like, this is crazy. And that idea alone just kind of stuck with me. And then it was gifted to me, and ta-da, here we are now. So
Right. Do you have any advice for people out there who might be in that similar situation to what you've endured with any part of your story?
oh my gosh. I feel like there's so much I could say. I think some of the mottos that or little nuggets that I've picked up along the way that have helped me is giving myself grace, especially through my cancer journey. Like, that was out of my control.
Mm-hmm.
So all I could do is just add some humor and give myself grace, and that I'm going to push through it because I know I'm resilient. But then, also just not stressing over the things you can't control is a huge one that stopped me to be an overthinker and to really just live presently. When it comes to addiction, it's like you almost want to be corny and be like, say no to drugs, but it's so wholeheartedly true.
Some things in life are that simple. Just say no to manipulation,
really?
to drugs, to all of the above.
Yeah, say no to drugs. Like, truly, like, don't even be like me and just feel curious or have that curious thought. Like, just, be careful of your environment and protect yourself and your energy. And that means the type of friends who are in your life.
Absolutely right.
Yeah, your peers are everything. I mean, your family is amazing as well too, but also just who you surround yourself with is a reflection of yourself.
Right. Well, they certainly influence. I was actually researching earlier this week because I'm always trying to figure out what am I going to write next. And a compass that is off, that's not working correctly, brought in with a compass that is working correctly, will cause both compasses to work incorrectly. And the same thing happens with us as people. When we get around people who are not right, who are what I would call bad association, they're going to rub off on us, even in the small doses. So I think you're exactly right with your advice.
Yeah. And you know what? Even with that, in me and my own story, it's like my circle now is so small, and it could sound lonely because I don't have, a big group of friends or even a lot of friends, but it's like I rather protect who I am and my energy, my environment, if it's even just me and Mocha. Like, that's perfectly okay, but I don't feel lonely. And that's not just because I have a dog, but because I love my own company. I love who I am. So it's like I want others to be able to love themselves too, where they're not afraid to be alone.
So it
That's,
sounds like quality over quantity.
yes. Yes, definitely.
A few high quality friends means all the world. I
Mhm.
would definitely agree with you. Okay, I'm gonna ask one last question. I'm borrowing it from Tony Lynch. If
Okay.
you could choose one superpower, what superpower would you have?
Ooh. So this means I need a different answer. um, I think I want to gear towards being connected to your subconsciousness and your higher power, because and it also goes along with what I just said of not feeling alone, because you have so much faith in your higher power that you trust the process, you trust life and where it's going to lead you. And I've learned tremendously through my journey that I went from being what I thought was a toxic magnet to now someone who has so much faith and trust in my higher power that I can just move through life breathlessly and with so much grace and ease, and just feel at peace, but also just living through gratitude. It's so simple, but so profound at the same time.
Yeah.
So
I've found in my life that usually the most profound things are the simple things.
they
They
are.
really are. There's a reason why they're simple.
Yeah.
They're meant to be simple.
Yeah, definitely. And when you can find gratitude and joy in those little things, like just imagine when all the bigger, beautiful things do come along. It's like it's overwhelming and you're just grateful, and being grateful just leads to more beauty and profound
Absolutely.
beauty in life.
Absolutely. Well, Haley, I have really enjoyed our conversation and what you've shared. I hope that our audience will equally find it of value. And I hope they will check out your website, HaleyMazanec.com, as well as your book, Three Strikes Can't Take Me Out. I remember the three strikes. I'm having to remember the last half. I'm like, where's my notes? But Three
Yeah.
Strikes Can't Take Me Out. I'm assuming on Amazon. I'm pretty sure I found your book on Amazon. Where else can they find your book?
Barnes and Noble as well online.
Okay. Okay.
Yes.
Very cool.
Thank you so much, Zoe. I had such a wonderful time with you today. Truly.
It's been my pleasure. All right. We're going to stop the recording right about now.